ladies and gents. Rocco Yaps. Today I'm going to be yapping about the fight that happened yesterday night between WBC defending champion at 140 pounds, Matias, and mandatory challenger Dalton Smith, and everybody in the card from the very first fight of the night to the main event. And I'm going to be talking about who won, how right or wrong was I in my prediction of who I believe was going to win, and who do I think the winner should face in the future. Now, this is going to be a fast one, but the first fight of the night was Arhan Iseni. He improved his record from 4 victories, all 4 by knockout, to now 5 victories, all 5 by knockout. No draws, no loss. I had him at a 75% chance of winning via unanimous decision. I just think that the level of opposition that they put him in terms of journeyman was going to make it to where it was going to be a little bit more of a struggle than he's used to. So that's why I had it at a 75% chance of victory, while at the same time, even though in victory, I had it maybe, the journeyman could survive past, the knockout power, but he didn't. But I did say that that if there was gonna be a knockout by him, it would be around the 4th round, and he ended up doing it around the 3rd round. So I was kind of right in that regard. And pretty much there's no one really specific who I would like him to see. He's barely starting his career. You can see he's clearly one of those guys that they're trying to bring from the Middle East to rise them up to a big star. I don't know. Just give him another journeyman. Make it a little bit more tougher than the last one. That's pretty much all I could give. But moving on to real stuff, Keith Cullen was the next fight, and this was a good fight. Cullen was eight victories, all 8 victories coming by way of knockout, and now he has improved his record to 9 victories, 9 of them by knockout. So he has a 100% knockout ratio. Still in 9 fights. I had him at a 60% chance of winning via unanimous decision. Same thing as the last one. I had it to where, I feel like he was going to win, but it was still going to be a tough fight. And if he did win, I think it would be tough enough to where the other guy was just going to not get down, you know. And I gave my reasonings as to why I said he was pretty durable and experienced, and why that was the case of why I felt like it was a 60% chance of Keith Cullen winning, and it would be by decision instead of knockout. But I did say if it were going to be by knockout, it was going to be around the 7th or 8th round, which it ended up being in the 7th round, as I said in my previous video. And yeah, it was a great fight. He looked good. He looked solid. His hands, power were a little bit too much. Like, and at the end of the day, he lasted as long as he could, but it wasn't enough. Now, to the future of his opponents for Colin would be the man on your right who's holding the NABO championship belt for the WBO. Basically, for those who don't know, out of the 4 sanctioning bodies, they sometimes have these lower level belts that help guys as a stepping stool to bigger and better fights, or more bigger level, higher level belts. The NABO, WBO basically means like in the position of the WBO, they view this person as the best fighter coming out of North America. So that's why it's North American Boxing Association via the WBO. So in terms of the WBO, this is the best guy coming out of North America. And his name is Yan Santana, who's currently the WBO, NABO champ, as I said. And he's sitting at a record of 16 victories, 13 of them by knockout, 0 losses, 0 draws, which you could say is a pretty dangerous fight to be putting against. I'm kind of that old school type of guy. I grew up like that, where it's like you're showing your levels above. Let's go. Let's see if you're even at a North American boxing level, And it just so happens to be that, unfortunately for Colin and his team, or for many others who are looking to, show that they are at least at a North American boxing level, there is a guy as dangerous as Jan Santana holding a belt that gives you that status. But on your right hand side, you could see I have a belt instead of a fighter. The reason I have that is because there's a guy named Miguel Flores who's currently the WBC's USA champion, which is this belt, the green one, and he's going to be already scheduled to defend it in February against a man called John Paul Magalong. Uh, since they're, like I said, it'll take place late February. So it depends who wins that one. Whether Miguel Flores is able to successfully defend his belt or uh, Magalong is able to dethrone him and become the new WBC USA champ. And basically, yeah, this is at 126 pounds, by the way. So I think those are the two routes you should take. Obviously, the one to the left, where you go for the NABO, WBO belt against Jan Santana, would be a lot more dangerous than going the route of WBC USA champ against the winner between Miguel Flores or John Paul Magalong. But at the end of the day, I think this is what you should be doing as as a guy who wants to be taken seriously as a prospect, and has an impressive record like that. You should go for some of these belts. Whether it's an NABF belt or the WBC NFBF belt, which is like basically the same thing as this one that Jan Santana is holding in the picture to the left, or this very belt by the WBO or the WBC USA champ. Belts like those, like where it has significance and it has a little bit of weight to them, but it helps. It shows that you're skating at least in some of these categories and in some of these rankings by the sanctioning bodies, and that you're going up in the world. That you're showing, hey, at least I'm at a USA level. Hey, at least I'm at a North American boxing level, or at least I'm at a Latino level. There's a Latin American belt as well. Some of these sanctioning bodies have belts that are given to people that they deem the best boxer in this weight class coming out of Latino America or North America or from the US, stuff like that. So I think that's the route that Colin and his team should be looking at in the near future. Now, going on to the monstrous KO by Bravo, our boy Nestor Bravo, who I had him. Yes, I will admit, I'm never going to run away from my predictions, whether they're right or wrong, especially if they're wrong. Nestor Bravo versus Pedro Campa, where I had Campa winning 60-40% via points or 8 to 10th round KO. But I will say, even though I was wrong, I will say I did say it was going to be not only a very tough fight, but that it was possible that Bravo could do the exact same thing to Campa. I just felt like Campa was going to be a little bit over um, to get the victory. But I was wrong in terms of not only the winner, but how late the knockout would be in this fight. As you can see, um, Campa got knocked out in the second round by Bravo, which was devastating, and it was honestly like, so far for the year, pretty good knockout for the year, pretty good knockout for the month, and this month is stacked in terms of fights coming up. But yeah, the knockout came out a lot sooner. Now going on to his future opponents, which I'm pretty excited about, because the 140-pound division is one of those sleeper divisions, in my opinion, where there's a lot of good prospects, there's a lot of good contenders, there's a lot of good champions, there's a lot of good ex-champions who are in that contender level. It's just very much a very good, exciting category, but it's going under the radar. So it's very low key and it's very solid. And I've been keeping an eye on this division for a long time. And the future in terms of Bravo, for what he wants to do in terms of stepping up a level. You got to remember, Bravo has now improved his record to 24 victories, 17 of those victories by knockout, one loss, zero draws. So he has to start looking already for those more challenging fights. Imagine trying to go barely for a interim or intercontinental belt for the very first time when you're 35 fights in or 40 fights in. It's just not reasonable. Plus, he destroyed a guy who was going to be pretty tough, in my opinion, to So he's showing that he's at least levels above. But with that being said, my more favorite in terms of who he should fight next is the man to your left in the middle with the two belts. His name is Emiliano. They call him El General Vargas. He is the son, the middle son of, you know, the champ Fernando Vargas, El Feroz. You know, you've seen him before, and I'm sure you've heard of Emiliano Vargas as well. But he is currently at 140 pounds. He's currently a prospect who's being considered a lot more serious now, especially with his last fight in the belt he got. He's currently at 16 victories, 13 of those victories by knockout, 0 losses, 0 draws. He continuously blows his opponents out of the waters. He continuously shows that none of the guys in these levels that he's climbing up in are able to give him trouble or compete with him or even stand in the ring with him. Um, but yeah, he is currently the NFBF belt, which is the green belt you see that he is carrying, basically stating that he is the best 140-pound fighter in North America. So in North America, he is the best guy coming out of 140. And then the new belt that he just collected on his last fight, which is the picture, which is where I got the picture from. You see to his left, you see the Latino champion. Basically, the WBO, like I stated earlier, the WBO is saying that in terms of just Latinos, you know, from Latino America or from descended from Latinos, this is the best guy coming out of 140 for their sanctioning body in the via the WBO. So he is currently defending and belt holder of the WBO Latino champion and the WBC NABF champion. And I think a win over Emiliano would be enormous for him. Not only do you defeat a famous prospect and take his first, give him his first his first loss and take his O, but at the same time you become Latino champion via the WBO and you become the NABF champion. You know, it's gonna do wonders for your career, being able to get in the ring and beat someone like Emiliano. And I think Emiliano is also due for some of these tough fights, like someone like Bravo, to at the very least be pushed a little, you know, before knocking out his opponents. You know, even if Emiliano does end up knocking out Bravo, at least that he gets pushed 7, 8 rounds, and that he has to work those rounds and use more than just power and reflexes. You know, he has to use other tools in order to overcome said opponents. But the man to your right is my second option, and it's probably a little bit more, and reasonably a lot more dangerous than the man to the left. That's why it's my second option. But the man to your right is Liam Paro, who was the IBF world champion at 140 pounds before he got dethroned by Richard Sir Hitchens. And he's been on a hell of a ride trying to come back as a mandatory. He's had one comeback fight where he won. Then they had one elimination fight that he won, and it was fucking banging back in Australia. And then he was scheduled to have another fight that was for elimination for the IBF challenger position, but that fight got canceled. So that's why I say him and Bravo would be a good way to replace that canceled fight, you know, in the sense of like, okay, this is an elimination fight for both of you guys. Paro could use a victory over someone like Bravo. It would be a respectable elimination fight for Liam. And at the same time, for Bravo, it would be one hell of a victory to beat someone like Liam Paro, ex-world champion, dethrone someone like Super Matias in his home turf when he was a champion already. Did pretty solid, pretty decent against the current IBF champion, who's Richard Hitchens. You know, it would be good for Bravo if he was able to get in the ring with him, which Liam Paro is currently standing at 27 victories, 16 of them by knockout, 1 loss, 0 draws. That loss being in his title defense against Richard Hitchens, where Hitchens dethroned him and became the new IBF 140-pound champion. Now, next fight that took place was Javier Cintron versus Victor Efrain Sandoval, where I was wrong. As you can see, how fucking wrong I was. But I was wrong in a weird way. Like, I wasn't content with my answer. I was just feeling a weird feeling and I didn't want to ignore it. But everything was pointing that Sintron was going to be the victor, but I just had a weird feeling. I just thought Sintron maybe wasn't going to be in the right headspace because of his loss. You know, he won't be able to bounce back. But I did have, in a weird way, a 60% chance of winning for Sandoval. But I did say Sandoval, I don't see him going the distance and winning by points. I said I see him winning by 60%, and if he's going to win, it's going to be by late stoppage around the 7th to 10th round, which both of those things didn't happen. Not only did he didn't win, but the knockout came a lot sooner as um, he basically just got knocked out in the first round pretty bad by Sintron. Sintron knocked Sandoval out in the first round, and Sintron improved his record from 14 victories, 7 of them by knockout, 1 loss, and 0 draws. He's currently fighting at 118 pounds. That's where he's campaigning at. That's where he's trying to build his career at 118 pounds. Uh, like I said, this was just one of those weird things. I don't know why I had that gut feeling that maybe I should be saying Sintron is going to win, despite everything logically pointing that Sandoval, sorry, that my gut feeling was saying go with Sandoval, despite every logical reason saying Sintron was gonna win. I don't know, and I listened to it, and that's my wrong. But I did say that it was gonna for sure. That I wasn't sure about my decision, but I'm not gonna take it back. I'm a man. I own up to my things. But moving on to who he should be looking after in terms of opponents. Um, Starting with the man to your left, who his name is Saul Sanchez, currently at 21 victories, 12 of those victories by knockout, 4 losses and 1 draw. Just like Sintron, if you didn't know Sintron, he reached the highest he's ever reached and won was international level, but he competed at world level for a world title fight and he lost. So the highest he's ever gone competing wise is world level, but the highest he's ever won is international level. And same thing with Saul. Saul, as you can see, he has the WBO Latino belt right there, meaning he is the best Latino fighter at 118 pounds. He won that belt. He currently resides in those levels of international, Latino, like regional levels. And, but he did compete for the WBO world title belt where he did lose. And, you know, kind of same thing. Both these guys, the highest they've ever gone is for a world title belt, but they lost pretty bad, and then they are able to win in like Latino region, North American region, international level fights, and even have belts that do show that they are at that level. But currently, Saul Sanchez doesn't have any belt to his name. He doesn't have any belt to his title to defend or anything like that. But it would be a good fight, in my opinion, between them to kind of build up the career of Sintron. But another one is more of a contender, but the man to your right, his name is David Suela, something like that, who is 29 victories, 18 of them by knockout, only 1 defeat and 0 losses. Funny enough, all 3 of these motherfuckers have the same thing in common, or all 3 of these fools, they currently keep winning around that international, Latino, regional, like those levels of boxing. As you can see, he got the WBC Youth World Champion, meaning by the WBC standards, he was the best young and up and coming guy in the world at 118 pounds. But he did compete at a world title level fight, which he did lose, and that's his only loss. And it was a devastating knockout loss against Junta Nakatani when Junta was in the 118-pound division before moving up. But yeah, all 3 of these guys have the same thing in common. They've all lost going for world title belts. Pretty devastating losses, but they've shown that consistently they are in an international level Yeah, like pretty much at international level in terms of being a fighter, and they've had belts and defended those belts to prove that they are indeed at least at that level. But a cool thing about that would probably favor Sintro and his team to want to go for David, the guy on the right, would be because currently he is ranked number 15th with the IBF, number 8 with the WBC, and number 9 with the WBO. So out of the three out of the four sanctioning bodies, he is ranked in the top 10 in two of them, and in the top 15 in the other one. So I mean that's a pretty good name to beat and put yourself at a higher position in some of these rankings. Now, the unexpected unanimous decision victory. Why do I say that? This was a fight that I had Rodriguez winning by TKO with a 70% chance of victory. I just didn't see a way where this was going the distance. I did not see Rodriguez not being able to finish Diaz, but you know, I think just like me, Rodriguez wasn't expecting the durability of Diaz, and not only his durability, but his punch output. As you can see in the photo, it wasn't an easy bout for Rodriguez to come out victorious. Despite um, what the scorecards say, and I agree, it's a unanimous decision victory. There's no shadow of a doubt that Rodriguez won this fight. Um, but as you can see by his expression and his face, even though it was a clear unanimous victory for Rodriguez, it was still a tough fight to come out victorious against Diaz. But like I said, I think it's because it has to do with the unexpected like durability and punch absorption that Diaz had, while at the same time the punch output that he was able to give to Rodriguez back that probably took Rodriguez and his team out um, for a spin, and they weren't expecting that. But yeah, he improves his record. Rodriguez improves his record to 23 victories, 13 of them by knockout, 3 losses, 0 draws. Currently residing at the 118-pound division. Now, what I will say is that I'm very impressed by Diaz. I think Diaz is someone that should probably stop being undisciplined and focus on being at 118 pounds. If he can make 115, go down to 115 and make. He's one of those fools that just keeps bouncing up and down. He has a fight at 111, then the next fight he has it at 122, then the next one he has it at 117, then the other one he has it at 114 and a half. Like he's just all over the place. Pick your specific bout. I mean, your specific weight class. Campaign there as much as you can, and then move up to the next one and do the same thing. Now, his last fight before this one, I think he was at 115 pounds. Like, I think he came in 113. So it's like, okay, you can make 115-pound limit. Go back down there, especially since it seems like Bam is going to be leaving there any time now. Like, this is probably his last year in that weight class before he decides to move up to 118. There's going to be 4 belts that need a champion. 4 belts that are going to need 2 guys for each belt to compete against each other to become the new champion. So Diaz, if he wants to really take boxing serious, he should go down there and try to campaign there. But with that being said, the future of Rodriguez moving in at 118 pounds, I have the 2 guys to the left would probably be a little bit more smarter for him. His name is Nonito Donaire. I'm pretty sure a lot of you fools who know boxing do not need any sort of introduction to him. But Donaire, as currently stated, has 43 victories, 28 of them by knockout, 9 losses and 0 draws. He's an ex-world champion, just like Rodriguez. He's an ex-world champion. Currently, he was the WBA. Well, I'm pretty sure he still is because after a bit he took a little break, a little hiatus, and then he came back. And as you can see in the photo, the belt that he has, he became the WBA interim champ. He fought the interim champ for the WBA at 118 pounds, and he beat the young buck in a pretty tough and exciting fight where Donito was looking a lot more impressive, and he seemed to turn the clock backwards just for a night, and he looked very good. So, and he's still active, and he's still trying to go for a world championship belt at his age. And after that performance, I don't blame him. But he did try to go for a world title fight for the WBA, and he did lose. So I'm pretty sure he's still the interim title holder, despite losing, because it was for the world title belt that they were fighting for. So if he is the interim belt title holder for the WBA, it's still really good for Rodriguez and his team to look at him. If he's not, it's going to be a little bit less interesting and a little bit less impactful for his career, but it's still going to be a very good fight that he should probably be looking for in order to put himself one or two fights away for a world title fight. Um, Plus, he's 43 years old. Nonito is 43. It would be a good eliminator fight to be like, hey, I want to go challenge the WBA champion. I just beat the interim champ, you know, yada yada. And I mean, it was last month that this fight took place where Donito lost going for that world title fight. So it's like, you guys are both free. You guys are both free to come up with the schedule to fight. So that'd be good. Uh, the opponent to your right, as you can see, is Juan Francisco Estrada. 45 victories, 28 by knockout, 4 losses, 0 draws. You guys may know him if you guys know boxing. If you know Nonito, you probably know who Estrada is. He was deemed one of the 4 kings at 115 pounds with 3 other world elite level fighters. They were the kings at 115 pounds, but then Bam Estrada was taken out one by one. And yeah, Francisco Estrada was one of them. Uh, he fought in 2024 against Bam, where he was defending his belt, and a unification bout against Jesse Bam Rodriguez, where he got knocked out. He did manage to sit Bam though, but it cost him getting hurt more. After that fight, he waited a whole year to then get back in the ring, but this time he moved up to 118. So that was his last fight against Jesse Bam Rodriguez. His last fight at 115. Moved up a whole year later to 118 pounds, where he had a unanimous decision victory, kind of testing his waters back at 118 pounds. Um, and you know that last fight was of June of 2025. So I mean, he's up for a fight. He's up for a fight, and I think this would be a comfortable fight for him and his team to want to accept. Francisco, like I said, ex-champion, moved up to 118, so he's not natural 118 pounds. And it'll be a good elimination fight between him and Rodriguez. Both more on the older side of boxing, both ex-champions, both trying to go back for that glory of being a world champion again. And yeah, I think both of these guys fighting would be a lot more interesting than Francisco Estrada trying to go his way of just beating up these normal guys, and Rodriguez trying to beat up these normal guys too. And I think a fight between both of them would be very exciting. And a matter of fact, I even think that maybe a fight with Rodriguez and Estrada would be a lot more interesting than on air. But who knows? Both of these things, not to pat myself on the back, but I think both of these things are good matchups for the future of Emmanuel Rodriguez after his victory. Now, boy oh boy, the main event. Okay, fuckers, let's get into this. Well, what a way to become a world champion. So, I had Matias winning 60% victory via points. I thought Smith was going to be, with the combination of Matias being a slow starter, Smith probably implementing a little bit of moving around and hugging, which he did do, hugging a lot, moving a lot, mainly hugging a lot. I thought that was going to be and him being pretty durable, and then him having enough power to kind of push back Matias. I thought it was going to be a fight that was going to go the distance, but it was going to be given to Matias via points. But I did say if it was going to be a stoppage, obviously Matias stopping Smith around the 9th to 12th round, one of those later rounds, I saw Smith not being able to continue going. But as you guys may have seen, or you guys are barely finding out watching this video, Smith stopped Matias in the fifth round. Now, here's what I gotta say, because it is gonna be a point of talk of this fight. And yes, in my opinion, this fight was stopped early. I saw Matias um, get up pretty good. He wobbled when he took a step, but then he caught himself. He looked good. He looked responsive. The moment they said no, he was reacting like a man who was actually devastated because he could continue, as opposed to a man who's knocked out but his natural like reflex is to complain about the decision, but immediately goes and sits down and is like, "Whew, like thank God the ref fucking stopped." I'm still catching myself right now. I don't even know what's going on. No, Matias looked like a fool who was up and was like, "Damn, I got my shit rocked. Okay, let's go." And then got stopped, and then his reaction is like, "Why the fuck are you stopping this fight? I'm ready to go." That's what I got from it. I think Matias could have gone, especially because the fifth round had like 30, 35 seconds left to it. And I think Matias could have more than enough been able to survive the round. And who knows if he would have been able to. And who knows if, even if he did survive that fifth round, if there would have been any difference. Like maybe he gets knocked down the sixth round, way worse. But we never know. And we'll never know. But I still am going to give props to Smith. Smith was doing a good game plan. It was a little excessive in the hugging, but like I said, it's what you expect from somebody who's going to get in the ring with someone like Matias, who hits that hard, who's as relentless, who is like a Terminator, who could take so much damage. And then you got to remember, like if you go watch and like rewatch this fight, Smith entering the fifth round looked like he had fought 10. Smith looked like he was entering the 10th or 11th round when it was barely the fifth round. It wasn't even halfway through the matches they had scheduled, and he already looked like he was already like like if you took a picture of Smith and the way he was fighting, you'd be like, okay, they're already in the 10th, 11, 10 to 12 round range. They're one or two rounds more and they're done. And it's like, no. If I showed you how many rounds, you'd be like, whoa, fucking, they're barely going in the sixth round. They're barely halfway. So yeah, that is something as to why it kind of bugs me too, because it's like Smith, although doing very good, and he caught Matias. Matias was getting probably a little bit too cocky with him being able to take Smith's punch, and Smith showed him like, no, I have power. I will hurt you, and he did hurt him. But I think it was stopped prematurely, and it was also like it just sucks because it's like, no, like Smith was in trouble. He was fainting, he was fading pretty quickly, as opposed to Matias. And also, I mean, like I said, it just seemed like it was a moment of confidence and cockiness, and Smith just took advantage of that, as opposed to wear and tear. But nonetheless, it was an entertaining fight. It was one hell of a fight. It was a back and forth fight. Despite, weirdly enough, the amount of hugging that Smith was causing, it was still a pretty good back and forth battle, brawl between these two guys, heart to heart. Balls. Who got the bigger fucking cojones here? Who got more heart? Even though there was an excessive amount of hugging, which is weird, but one hell of a way to become a world champion, one hell of a way to win, against to win and improve your record to now 19 victories, 14 of them by knockout, 0 losses, 0 draws. Now, the future of Dalton Smith. These are my two options, like I have been giving everybody. Number one, and the one I want the most, is a rematch. I think Surai Matias deserves the rematch. I think Dalton knows that it's not a crazy thing to ask. It's not a crazy fucking request to be like, hey, give me a rematch. It's not a crazy fucking thing to accept the concept of running it back with the guy that you took his belt from, running it back with him. I think this fight, Matias, now knowing that, okay, Dalton can hurt me, and that's something I have to go in there knowing now that he can hurt me. Unlike every other guy I fight where I just keep moving forward, I let them get tired by hitting me because I could just take all their punches. It's like, no, that's not gonna work against anybody in the out of the champions, but specifically, like, okay, at least I know for sure it won't work against Smith. Smith showed me I can't just let him punch me as many times as he wants as a plan to get him tired so I could destroy him later in the round. It's like, no, I can't let him get these punches in because he has shown and proven he can hurt me. So with that in mind, I think it would be an excellent fucking fight. And if Dalton beats him more convincingly, then it's like, boom, that would do a lot of stuff for Smith's fucking career and profile. And if Matias comes, Matias is known for comebacks. He's known for being that guy who's like, he knocks out everybody, even the guys that beat him. The only one guy that beat uh Subrael and not got knocked out was Liam Paro. And Liam Paro's not his only uh the only guy that won against Matias. There's been guys in the past that won Matias, but in the rematch with Matias, Matias knocks them out. The only guys right now that have not been knocked out by Subrael Matias is Dalton Smith, Liam Paro, and Puello, who lost his belt, the WBC World Title belt, to Subrael Matias. Those are the only guys that have never been knocked out by him. And like I said, Smith looked like he was already in the 10th, 11th round by the time they were barely entering midway through the 5th. So it'd be a hell of a fucking fight. Obviously, it would probably take place in his neighborhood, as Eddie did say and mention that, you know, classic style, when a guy becomes a world champion, they want to give him a hometown, like, homecoming type of fight against a, okayish fighter. Look good in front of his people, in front of his crowd, of his neighborhood, and give everybody a good night. I think this is one hell of a way to make a homecoming fight. Rematch Subrael Matias in the UK, in your own neighborhood. Defend it against your people. Double down in letting the world know, no, there's no shadow of a doubt that I could beat this man whenever, and I am a world championship level fighter, and I'm ready for the future. Now, moving on, if the rematch doesn't happen, I think a unification fight against the man to your right, whose name is Gary Antoine Russell, who is currently sitting at 18 victories, 17 of them by knockout, and one defeat with zero draws. He is currently the WBA 140-pound champion, world champion. He beat El Rayo Valenzuela for this belt, but the reason I think it's a good fight is because both of these guys are powerful counter punchers, and they have very good styles that can mix well, make an exciting matchup. But it's also for unification. But I think it would be a more easy thing to do because it's like Russell and his team could feel confident they can beat Smith after what they saw, how Smith handled the power of Subrael Matias. But at the same time, in the corner of Smith, they can feel comfortability in taking the fight for unification against Russell because Russell hasn't fought in almost a fucking year. When he beat Rayo and he became the champ, he fought in March 1st of 2025. So, he's a little bit less than around 2 months, a little less than 2 months away from being 1 year off since he fought. 1 year off the ring. And El Rayo wasn't a very strong champion in my opinion as well. He was very good and he won it convincingly against Pitbull Cruz, but he wasn't a strong champion. So Russell can show, that can show for Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and Smith and his team. That could give them a little confidence boost in being like, well, he beat up a not so solid champ and he hasn't won or fought at all since it's March 1st of 2025, which is in a little less than 2 months, closing in on a whole year. you know. And then on the corner, Russell Smith, PBC, and all his team, they can look at it in the sense of like, well, look how Smith reacted to the power of Matias. I think we can do this. I think he's gonna react the same way, if not worse, to the power of Russell. And a unification bout will be hella good because we got people like Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, and Teofimo Lopez, Richard Hitchens in that division. It'll be a lot easier to try to go and get one of these guys to push for undisputed if somebody takes the initiative of going for a unification bout against another champion, aka Dalton Smith against Gary Russell, uh, Gary Antoine Russell. Uh, Without further ado, ladies and gents, thank you very much for taking time out of your day. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked my video, check out my other stuff and stay tuned for stuff in the future. I post consistently 2 to 3 times a week. If you're new or you've been watching and you're just not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. It helps a lot. And it's free, but it really helps a lot. And yeah, your boy was a little bit more wrong than this time. But that's been enough yapping for me, ladies and gents. Rocco out. Have a good one, and God bless.